alcohol.
2.
2?
Yeah,
But-
yeah, that's when the hotel kicked us out of the bar. It's 2.
Was it 2?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. So yeah, they showed up pretty much like 15 minutes before last call.
Right.
They had been pre-gaming already, but it sounds like that was a pretty big place where people kind of hung out. And just because a bar stopped serving alcohol doesn't mean they necessarily close. And I
No.
think that was the case with Kilroy's.
I never understood the wanting to go to the bar just before it closed.
Well,
I've done it, don't get me wrong, but I never could fathom how fun that was.
There were places that have after-hours functions too, but for me it was always like, there's no more booze. What the hell? I'm leaving. I mean, right?
Yeah, so I think in this instance, it's likely that they just got pretty sloppy about IDing later in the night. Because it was kind of like, all right, who's going to sneak in for the last 15 minutes?
Well, she also had a
Nobody.
fake ID, I believe.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, a fake ID can still, just because somebody has a fake ID, like,
Doesn't mean
if
it's
you're
good.
good at IDing, it means you should be able to catch a fake ID.
Oh, sure.
You know what I
but
mean?
it's
So-
a college town, you're not
Sure.
going to be too,
But you might be in that. I would just say that'd be a reason that I could give for why she would go that late.
Because she wanted one more Midori sour.
Or, I don't know, maybe there was like dancing happening there. I don't know.
Yeah, that thing has a bunch of dance floors.
Yeah,
It is a one-stop shop of drinking and partying.
it is.
Mm-hmm.
Then at 2:27 a.m., Lauren is seen exiting the bar with Corey. Lauren had left her cell phone and her shoes at the bar.
I do that a lot.
The shoes she had taken off, there was a part of the patio, again, one-stop shop, part of the patio that was sandy. I think she wasn't wearing heels, but she
It'd
was
be some
wearing
kind of sandal.
some kind of something, yeah, because it gets pretty hot in Indiana. And she'd taken them off to go walk out in the sand and then just
They have a
left
little.
them.
They have a little volleyball there, maybe.
They do, actually. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
confused by this, so I went to their Facebook page, and there's boatloads of photos of it. And it's, how there's that big green awning in the front that you always see in all the photos of
Yeah.
it? They're like 40 foot long or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, just to the right is a courtyard that's fenced in, and that, apparently, they truck in sand to have stuff go on. What was it that the event that Malibu Party was the
Ooh.
photo album that I was looking at? So that was,
That sounds
very
like
cleverly
fun.
named.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so it's right there. They had volleyball.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Maybe
to
I'll
me.
go back to college. Go to Bloomington,
Yeah.
Illinois. Yeah, I almost said Illinois.
The college that's there is vastly superior.
Of course.
So then 3 minutes later at 2:30 a.m., Lauren is seen entering Smallwood Plaza, which is where her apartment is.
Yeah. Which is, by the way, just around the corner from the bar, practically.
Yeah, she's got Corey with her. A group of boys basically saw her and Corey, and it kind of differs a little bit. Basically, they noticed that she was in bad shape and asked her, because they knew, everybody kind of knew each other, and asked her, like, hey, are you okay? And she said, yeah, I'm fine. But apparently, at the same time, Corey got in an altercation with the same group of guys. And the reporting that I've heard is that they didn't like the way that Corey was treating Lauren, whether that be like handling, like touching, acting around,
Well,
whatever.
If you're a guy, I think the guy that he had the altercation with was Zach Oakes, who was a friend of
Jesse.
Jesse?
Yeah, of
Yeah,
Jesse,
Lauren's
the boyfriend.
boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, when you're a guy and you see this girl and she's hammered, which apparently by all reports she was, and some stranger is like taking her off to her apartment, you make the assumption that, well, he's taking her back there to take advantage of her. So he might not have been mishandling it at all. You just make the automatic assumption, hey, this guy's going to do what I would do. I don't like that.
Apparently, Corey also smarted off to him.
That could have been it too. Yeah. I bet.
So what happened during this altercation, though, is it was a physical altercation. What happened is Zach hit Corey in the head. Punched him, yeah.
Yeah, apparently knocked him to the floor.
Yeah, I don't know that
Decked
would have
him.
been like too hard of a thing to do to Corey at that point, because he was also pretty intoxicated.
Yeah.
I don't think he was in a great shape anyway. But from that, I am going to use the word ostensibly, because
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it really fits here. Ostensibly, Corey lost the 15 minutes prior to this altercation and the rest of his memory for the rest of the night until he woke up the next morning.
I will also say that it may not have been the blow to the head
It could
that
have been
caused
something
that. He
else.
may have
Good
been
point.
so saucy that nothing was being recorded by his brain.
Or he just doesn't want to tell people what was being recorded by his brain.
Could be
and that's
convenient,
a pretty
yeah.
convenient excuse.
Some people are a little suspicious.
For whatever reason, I don't really know why, but at this point, Lauren and Corey decide to go back to Corey's house. Because Lauren did eventually, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but she did eventually misplace her keys.
Yeah, she did.
But it wasn't until after they left her apartment. So it wasn't as
I don't think they
though-
ever actually got into her apartment. They were just in the building and
Right.
left after the,
No, actually,
the smackdown.
They got up to the 5th floor, actually. They took the
They were
elevator
close
all the
to
way,
her
which
apartment.
was where her apartment was,
Yeah.
and that's where they had the altercation.
Right,
And
right.
instead of just going to her apartment, they turn around and
That's
say-
what I'm saying.
It's
yeah.
a little weird because,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's a good reason to, like, forget, just everything you knew, which is what Corey did, because that is a little inexplicable.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's weird.
Drunk logic.
I don't know if it's drunk logic or what necessarily. And again, we don't really have. Corey's the only person who can tell us what really happened, because it seems to me that group of boys had that altercation and then left, and probably assuming that Lauren was just gonna go, like they were right outside of her apartment. She was probably just gonna go right in, but she didn't.
Actually, I have a theory, but it sort of crosses into, like, slander. But,
Okay, well, we'll talk about that in theories. How's that?
Okay.
Okay. At 2:48 a.m., so the altercation took a little while, this whole situation that happened in the apartments.
Yeah, I heard that they were there in the apartment building for about 12 minutes.
Yeah.
But I think she was caught. I think they were caught on tape leaving the apartment building
Yeah,
as well.
at
At
2:48.
2:42. And no, was it 2:48?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is when they were seen leaving the apartment. So they were 18 minutes-ish. So they left the apartment, and Lauren and Corey entered an alleyway that runs between College Avenue and Morton Street. There's some security cameras nearby. There's lots of security cameras in Bloomington that caught a lot of footage of her, and I will just say that one of the frustrations with this case is that the police have, and we'll talk about this probably a little bit more in a little bit, but the police have, for whatever reason, chosen not to release the majority of the tapes, which is kind of weird, but fine, whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of the way the cops are about this stuff.
Yep. So the security camera mounted on the apartments show her and Corey exit the alley at 2:51 a.m. and walk towards an empty lot. A woman came forward as a witness, and I don't have a good bead on when exactly this one instance happened, but then the following instance happened after they had left the alleyway.
You're talking about the sitting portion?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this witness came forward, and she was leaving, quote unquote, visiting a male friend. We all know what that actually means. And she said that she saw Lauren and Corey sitting on some stairs, and the young girl,
That would be Laura.
her words, young girl, which is easy. Laura was so small Lauren was so small that it would have been easy to mistake her for a young girl. The young girl tipped over and hit her head, and the woman said that it was a really, really loud noise.
And that is tipped over as in fell over backwards, correct?
Yeah,
That's
just
what I
like,
heard. It's like fell backwards.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they're
basically
they were,
just lost her balance and just...
yeah, and there were
right
concrete
over.
steps too, also, by the way.
Yeah.
From what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, that's seriously intoxicated. Turn or anything. And I've had friends who were so intoxicated they face planted on the sidewalk,
Well,
and everybody
Lauren-
said they didn't do anything. They just went straight down.
Well, Lauren did that later.
yeah,
but
and that's what I'm sitting. And that and this, it's like that's a real indicator
Oh, for
of
sure.
her blood alcohol level.
yeah, but I think that incident happened in the alleyway. Is my sense is that like there were stairs into the alleyway, and that they had set, because it took them a really long time to get through the alleyway, basically that specific alleyway. So I'm guessing that they sat down and then the woman saw them and blah blah. But again, I don't really know when that happens. But after they left that alleyway, they were walking down a different alleyway, lots of alleyways, and the investigators talk about Lauren falling forward and hitting her head, like she didn't even put her hands up in the
face
alleyway.
plant. Yeah.
And then Corey helped her up, and then they got a couple steps, and then she just like crumpled is the term that people use mostly, where she just fell again. Corey picks her up again, and for whatever reason takes her to the apartment of 4 girls they'd been partying with earlier, that was like right there, but nobody was home. I don't really know. I don't understand the logic of a lot of these things that were happening. I mean, drunk logic, sure, but I don't, like, Lauren didn't live that far away from Corey. It was just like a couple blocks, so I don't really know why they went to this girl's apartments. But
If Corey figures that if she's this fall down drunk, he's not going to want to go back to the apartment complex that she lives in because he's already got his clock cleaned once. So he's going to try and find somebody else to offload her on because right now she's being a total drag.
fair enough.
Could be. Yeah.
So there were cameras that caught he and Lauren going up into this apartment building. The 4 girls were reportedly not home. So there are also cameras, obviously, of them leaving. And when they're leaving, Corey is carrying Lauren at this point. But he's got her... I really can't find the right way to describe this.
Kind of like a fireman's carry, I heard.
He's kind of wearing her like a cape, honestly.
Yeah, fireman's carry.
Kind of, yeah. Where her arms are just...
around his neck and forward, and she is draped across his back.
Yeah, she's just laying, and her legs are towards the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But
Is that
short
a
enough that they don't
fireman's carry?
drag.
I don't think that's a
I
fireman's
thought fireman's carry was over the shoulder with the head facing
too.
backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, well, I thought it was kind of draped over both shoulders.
Yeah, well, that's...
Yeah.
So she was a human cape.
But
that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah,
but
she
not,
was.
that's not the
Because her
fireman's
arms
carry.
were...
Right.
her arms were over his shoulders, and he was just holding them, and then she was just draped down the rest of his body. But like I said, she was tiny, so she wasn't dragging on the floor or anything like that. His lawyers... I think it's his lawyers. I don't actually know. I watched this interview.
He has at least one lawyer, I think.
Well, I watched this interview with these 2 lawyers who look like total skis balls. And I couldn't figure out. They just said who their names were, and I Googled them, and I couldn't figure out. I think they're his lawyers. They're lawyers of the defense of some kind. And they have a very good timeline of some more eyewitness accounts and things like that, and that's where I got some of this information. But they said that she was conscious at this point. Actually, to my point about them being kind of skis balls, the quote actually exactly is, "Oh no, she was alive and well at this point. Well, maybe not well, but alive." Unquote.
Yeah.
Come on. So he sits her down. Corey sits Lauren down in an alcove of a building, which is the point where she drops or otherwise loses her keys and her ID, because that was found in a little alcove in the alley
No.
during the search for her. Then they head off to Corey's house at this time for real, and I don't know if he was carrying her, if she was walking at this point. I think he was carrying her again. His roommate, Mike, who we talked about earlier, was at home and still awake, lucky for Corey. Mike sees Lauren there, but there hasn't been a whole lot of elaboration on her state at this point. I haven't really ever seen. Again, the guys aren't talking really. They don't have a lot to say about this case.
Let's clear up this right now.
Yeah.
All of the guys that we're going to talk about, Corey, and then the other gentleman that we're all going to talk about, they all lawyered up right away. And some people point to that as a sign of hiding something, and other people say, no, that's called being smart and protecting yourself. So that's why the information is... This is where the information gets a little more sketchy.
Totally.
Because of that. Because their lawyers say, shut up.
Yeah.
And say nothing.
Again, it'd be great to be able to hear from Mike, so Corey and Lauren got back to the apartment, and Lauren was, drunk and high, but conscious and talking to me, and, walked in on her own power. Or Corey walked in with Lauren, slugged over his shoulder, dropped her, and was like, there she is. I would love to know, what kind of the circumstance was there. But anyway, Corey is also kind of a mess at this point.
He's drunk.
He's drunk and probably on a lot of drugs.
At least some.
Corey, once he gets Lauren into the house, kind of tries to go upstairs. I think it was a townhouse that they lived in, so their rooms were upstairs. Tries to go up the stairs and just throws up all over the stairs. And Mike is like, all right, dude.
Party foul.
Come on, man, dude. Really? And helps him up the stairs and cleans up after him, at which point he comes back down and really notices, Lauren's in really bad shape. And so he tries to convince her to stay over at their place, basically sleep it off. Lauren reportedly said no, she wanted to go home. Actually, she wanted to find her cell phone. The reports aren't her saying that she wanted to go home. And it may be that, once the reason that she didn't just walk into her apartment was because she realized her cell phone was missing and she wanted to find it. That's certainly possible.
They went in the wrong direction, though.
They went way in the wrong direction, but she said no, she wanted to go find her cell phone. And Mike says that he decided that he didn't really know Lauren very well, which is kind of true, I guess. But that Jay, his neighbor, knew her way better. So he would, again, in the words of the lawyers, make her Jay's problem, unquote. Mm-hmm. Nice guys.
I think that, it's kind of understandable.
Yeah.
I've been there.
So Mike walks next door, two doors down, and wakes Jay up and says, "Come, Lauren's over here. Can you, take care of her?" And Jay goes over and, gets Lauren and brings her back to his house. And basically, again, just like Mike says, he tried to get her to stay over, just, sleep it off. Totally innocent. And she said, again, no, she wanted to go find her cell phone. So so he kind of just says, all right, fine.
Well, he did try and figure out, if she was just going to fall over. Because he said, listen, if you can walk to the end of the block while I'm watching you and not stumble, then you can go. But if I see you stumble, I'm going to bring you back. Yeah. I mean, that seems to be what his intention was. And he probably fully expected her to stumble on the first step.
Yeah. So actually at 4:15 a.m., this is the last official recorded sighting of her, Jay lets Lauren use his cell phone to place 2 calls. Again, that's what Jay says, but to 2 of her friends.
Phone records probably do confirm it, though, right?
Well, they confirmed that 2 calls were made to 2 of his other male friends at that time, whether it was Lauren or not. Who knows? Yeah. Because that plays in a little bit to some of the theories later on. But one of them was, David Moon, which was a different male friend.
Not David Rowan, the guy she first went there with?
No.
David Moon?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a lot of Davids in Bloomington, apparently.
Okay.
David's a popular name for my generation. There's a lot of Davids. I know I said that like you should know who that is. You don't. It's fine. This is the only time he comes into the story, really.
But I had heard that the other call was to David Rowan.
It may have been. Yeah. Either way, 2 male friends that were in that circle, neither of them answered. And so Jay said, all right, like Steve said, if you can walk to the end of the block, fine. And he watched from his little balcony area, which it's not really a balcony.
It's more of a stoop, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's like on the 2nd story.
Oh, it's one of those little halves. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Little itty-bitty balconies.
Yeah, where you can kind of just step outside.
You can put a flower pot on it and nothing else?
No. Mm-hmm. I think it's literally just like the width of a foot.
Yeah, the teeny tiny flower pot.
Sure, yeah, maybe a tiny one. So he says that he watched her get, quote, almost, unquote, to the corner and then turn around and went inside. And that's the last time anybody's ever seen Lauren. Ever. So real feel-good story.
They always are.
This case did garner national attention. News networks like CNN and Fox were picking the story up like immediately. And since 2011, those stories, you can find all that footage online, or at least a lot of it.
Yeah, I think
the original reporting.
Did ABC do like an hour-long special just a couple
2020
of years ago?
Yeah,
2020. Yeah, just a few years ago.
To this day, literally no additional clues have been found. And again, like I said, one of the big issues that people take with this case is that lack of CCTV footage. There was another case that was kind of similar to this. It was a girl disappeared in College City after walking, and the police department there released literally all of the footage, and that ended up actually leading to somebody remembering seeing this guy interacting with her, and they found the guy and then found this girl's remains.
And they were able to track the guy on tape. Right. That's how they figured it out, yeah.
Right, but somebody said, oh, yeah, I saw that guy, which they didn't have on tape was the interaction between them two, but they were able to track him and then, figure out who he is. And
so everybody's hoping that would happen again if the tapes were released.
Or something would happen, and unfortunately, they haven't done that. They've just released 2 kind of little snippets, and that's pretty much it. So there you go.
Frustrating.
Yeah. So that's the story. Do you guys have anything to add to the story?
Let me think.
No, I mean, we're probably going to talk about this in theories, but it's just, there's a whole lot of questionable judgment through this
Yeah.
entire story.
Yeah.
And it is...
That's called college, dude.
I was about to
Yeah.
say, it's all based in 20-somethings,
Yeah.
early 20-somethings, consuming a lot of intoxicants and making some weird, not-so-smart decisions. Because I remember some of the things that I did, and years later I look back and I'm like, oh, how did you not die, you idiot?
Well, I'm thinking,
You
I'm
got
so
lucky.
glad I didn't get caught.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, so we will talk about that in the theories,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, well, actually, then I guess we're at theories. But before we go, let's take a break.
I have a cat named Ginger.